and a photographer, a storyteller at heart. A lot of science communication, trying to bring folks together. But basically that means everything that I do is rooted in curiosity about communication. I've been immersed in the beaver world for about 12 years now, thanks to this little tiny side project that was gonna just take like a year of my life and be a 10-minute film and then I'd get back to other things. 12 years in, definitely happy that, damn proud is what I wrote down, to be part of the beaver world. And it's completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I think there's a reason that we have seen such an uptick in interest in beaver. I mean, here we are, the third BeaverCon. I know so many people are telling stories of like, oh man, back when I started, I thought I'd get laughed out of the room. Like no one knew what I was talking about. There's something inherently optimistic about beaver, right? About the way that they create for everybody else. By being the truest sense of who they are, they make the world better for so many other species. This came out a couple years back, like, wow, did beavers get a publicist? And the thing is, though, there's pros and cons to when something becomes popular. Because science and social situations are inherently complex. And when things become popular, they get reduced to sound bites and trends. And sometimes that's great, because you're spreading the word, you're getting the support you need from communities or the voting public. But sometimes also key details get dropped out. And so then we can end up with an oversimplified way that we're trying to discuss complex issues. And so that's kind of the place I'm speaking from today. We're all here because we want to see more beaver on the landscape, more beavered riverscapes, but we're all still needing to do more and push further. But just as we don't always agree in our own community, like there's a lot of sudden almost infighting. And so kind of the whole gist of what I want to talk about is the way that we're curious about communication. I hope we can maintain curiosity about where each other are coming from. Like, I don't want to see us suddenly start arguing over should we never use diesel-powered machinery or only do BDAs? Or are beavers absolutely appropriate everywhere or nowhere? Or should we either do translocation all the time or translocation never? We need to recognize the nuance and the complexity of that. So, quick little roadmap of what we're going to get into. We just went over this new beaver buzz, which is pretty awesome. But if we want to see increased success in our projects, I'm going to argue that we need to communicate realistic expectations. If you see the perfect fantasy textbook, dreamy little beaver complex, that's good in some ways for some types of purposes, but that's not reality. Dams breach, things flood, it gets messy, it's gonna move. We need to do a better job, I think, of really communicating that dynamism so that people have realistic expectations and they're prepared for that. They can know what is the permitting needs for a coexistence device in advance if that may happen. You might realize, hey, there is an undersized culvert there. Let's not put this project in yet. We're not ready. And I'm gonna talk about rhetoric, how we can communicate for understanding rather than communicate for convincing, or communicate to just get our way and get those silly people just to like, get out of my way and let me do my thing because I'm right. And then really how the frame of social-ecological systems can be a really beneficial way to hold on to the fact that we as people, we have a place too. And we really are going to decide if beavers thrive or fail, because at this point we have so much control and power. We'll just keep killing them if that's what the dominant view is, or if we want to make concessions and change how we do things, it will be up to us. And so then that's really where we'll come around to how do we communicate dynamism? It's a pretty tricky thing. So I just finally got DVDs and Blu-rays printed of the film. Nudge, nudge, they'll be for sale tomorrow. But I had to watch the screener disc before all the discs got made, and I suddenly saw a scene in a new light. So this was the Methow Beaver Project, pre-Alexa. So this is Kent Woodruff. This was Big Bella, who got released. And Kent had this line that it just struck me in a whole new way. And it was the end of this lovely little scene. And he said, "The true measure of our success will be when the community agrees This is the right thing to be doing. And that really struck me when the community agrees. He didn't say it's when we convince everybody. He didn't say when we pass laws to force it on everybody. He was really taking this angle of agreement, which comes from understanding. So how do we communicate for understanding? To all of our partners, the public, landowners, co-managers. Not everyone loves beavers as much as we do. So that's our task, right? Well, obviously, as the photographer, I'm like, well, let's just show them a picture, right? Look at that, yahoo, great, print it. Fly fish journal, awesome. A picture's worth 1,000 words. We've all heard that, right? Except when it's not, because a photograph fundamentally freezes motion. We are trying to convey motion, convey dynamism. And it just sort of hit me like, oh, crap. How do you take a single picture of dynamism over decades and beavers moving up and down and back and forth and ponds coming and going and aspen stands coming and going? A photo is really not the right tool in that aspect. So here I am, the photographer, thinking, oh, crap. Now what? But... sorry, where am I here? Let's go back to the essence of what we're talking about, a riverscape. There's this lovely quote from Luna Leopold. Many things are happening in the environment. Various groups give priority to preserving different parts of it, and as a result, we are rather unsuccessful at preserving anything. So we can't be having all of this bickering. We know what we want to convey is, okay, beaver were the dominant engineer. We killed them all. This is what happened to our streams. This is what we want. And as I've really been chewing on this, I decided the thing to do would be to go back to school and study communication. So I'm going to be Dr. Beaver on castor communication and riverscape rhetoric. But like, what is communication? So there's this lovely book, Inviting Transformation. And I think often we think about, well, I'm going to look out at the world, and then I'll figure out how do I communicate that. But actually, the way that we already have created frames of what is even appropriate to communicate, it's putting blinders or boxes around what we even think the world is. And so that's where if we're only coming at it from Western science, or we're only coming at it from one mode, we might miss things that are outside of that mode. That's kind of, I loved this morning when Wade mentioned it was in California, the coming together of all of these different kinds of knowledge. So if we're trying to communicate for understanding, we may think that we already know everything there is to know about beaver and floodplain reconnection and how to put in a project and how to gauge the project. But what about the indigenous knowledge, the traditional ecological knowledge? What about the rancher's place-based knowledge? All of those realms of knowledge can come together. Another fantastic quote, Deborah Tannen, qualitative researcher. I love that frame. Language is actually using us. It predetermines what we can see. Like, think about how we talk about our friends or our partners, or we think about a boss being compassionate or mean. The way we're automatically creating a construct of a story, we're sort of putting them in a box of what they are. So these are all the beaver benefits, right? These are the things we want to communicate. But how? We have control over how we communicate, and there's 5 basic modes of rhetoric. And it takes practice, but we can be more intentional about which kind of a mode of rhetoric we're using for a different situation. So, conquest rhetoric. Basically, there's the winner and the loser. You're coming in to win an argument. Clearly has a time and a place. Conversion rhetoric. It's when you want to change other people's perspectives. But you want to change them in a way where you're not interested in any of their perspectives or listening to them. You just want to change their perspective. So you can be really persuasive, get really crafty, but that's your goal, is just convince them that you're right, persuasion. Benevolent rhetoric. You want to provide assistance to others because you truly have good intentions. You really think it's the right thing to do. Maybe you have concern for their well-being, right? So we all have concern for our degraded waterways. Oh, wow, we got some awesome art going on here. Okay, concern for their well-being. Advisory rhetoric is when they've maybe asked for assistance, and so we're actually providing something that has been asked for. We're an expert and we have something to share. But the one that I really want us to think about that I think is really great for opening up our curiosity is called invitational rhetoric. And with that, the goal is understanding. It's a kind of engagement where you're actually sharing worldviews. You're having an exchange, you're having reciprocity, and you come forward with an openness to know that that person probably knows the best way to live their life. And you know the best way to live your life. But maybe there's a way that the two can become something even better when they're merged. And so that's a great way to think of what we call braided knowledge, where we're braiding indigenous knowledge and Western science, or we're braiding laboratory science with field-based science. And so then, what I am getting crafty about is I want to be perfecting and working on what I'm calling riverscape rhetoric. So how do we take these different modes of communication and all the tools at our disposal and bring it together into kind of like a way just to approach how we think about really doing the best for our riverscapes and our beavers. And I'm going to pause here. Artists, your second task. Come pick a card. From what you've heard so far. Oh, we need one more. I'm gonna make one up. So, Riverscape rhetoric is a communication framework that first and foremost centers upon social-ecological systems. We have to be thinking about the people as well. There's a lot of definitions of riverscape. And a lot of them are describing a geographic boundary. They're not describing the essence of what it is. Like, it's the area that includes the floodplain, or it's the area that could plausibly flood. But it's not saying who is in there, who's interacting. And so I love this quote from Fausch et al. We need to be thinking of this entire expanse. Okay, multi-species justice, dynamism, braided knowledge, reciprocal understanding. We can't ignore the people. If we ignore the people and just say push the project through, the people come back and shut it down later on. So we have to have that broad long-term consensus with our people. Great example, this lovely piece in the New York Times where this lovely rancher, A.G. Smith, got to share how he remembered as a little kid, they had beavers. The thing of the day was to trap them out. His parents trapped them out. The Army Corps came in and straightened the channel. It incised like 10 feet immediately, and he started letting them come back. And that has now gifted back water to all the other species. They're very involved in sage-grouse restoration. So that is a multi-species justice, social-ecological systems approach. Multi-species justice basically means that you're trying to get justice for all kinds of people, as well as all living and non-living beings. So again, multi-species justice requires that environmentalists consider working landscapes. It requires that white people think of what's going on in those underserved minority communities, where, like, think of NIMBYism. NIMBYism, not in my backyard, where well-to-do white folks were pushing a lot of really polluting projects off onto indigenous and poor BIPOC communities, that would not qualify as multi-species justice. There's a whole list of different kinds of justice, but these two I think are incredibly relevant. Patchy justice, it means we don't have to fix it all at once. There's patches. It's uneven, but you're still recognizing, you know what, we have reconnected this riverscape in this patch, and that is now a more just riverscape. It's better than if we hadn't done anything. We should do what we can. And then generative justice, sort of a bottom up. It's like, fight the hegemony. we're gonna rebel and do it from the grassroots. We're gonna say no to the riverscape, the restoration industrial complex, or say no, we're not going to put everything behind levees and dams, and we're going to do things differently. And then again, that invitational rhetoric. It's a power with, where the power is creating knowledge, you're sharing it. So I can't help but go back to Foucault and his whole notion of power knowledge, right? So whoever has the power can deem, well, what is valid knowledge? But then whoever has the knowledge has the power. And so you end up with this reifying positive feedback loop of a very narrow set of what is considered valid. And I think we could say that even thinking that a rodent can fix our waterways better than our engineers, that's kind of, a different way to be thinking about what is valid knowledge. And then I just love it can enable you to see solutions that you maybe didn't see before. There's all kinds of perspectives, and we need to collaborate. If we're really going to increase the pace, scale, and efficacy of beaver-based restoration, riverscape restoration, we need all the solutions and all the partners. So that is something I just want to present as something I'm chewing on and gnawing on as I'm beginning this process of becoming Dr. Beaver. And I think that we can all catch ourselves falling into little rigid boxes of like, but this is how I do it, or this is my tool, or oh, I don't like working with that person, I just wish they would get out of the way, or fine, I'll hire that dang sociologist, but just as a cherry on top, not at the beginning. I don't really care what these people think. We can all do a better job of collaborating and checking our own biases and constantly being curious. And so, back to that quote from Kent. The community will agree it's the right thing to do, and that's how we'll get that truly lasting longevity and partnership and collaborative determination to do what we need to do to heal our river systems. All right, so that was my nice little philosophical what's Sarah chewing on detour, but we did start off talking about photography, right? So kind of a pivot here. There's that same dam. Hey. That's a big old breach, yo. That was last August. That was June. And that was a week or so ago. So just as much as people love that beautiful, beautiful lush pond, we need to make sure they're not going to throw in the whole towel on the whole thing if suddenly that pond drains and they're facing some dried up lake bed, pond bed for a while. Okay, so now how could we use photography to show dynamism? If only there were people who had maybe thought about this. Oh, it didn't do it. Oh no, why won't it play? Oh, well, I was gonna play Allison's lovely little time lapse, but I don't. Oh, there we go. No? What? Oh, well, it's I thought it was that one. Oh, well, it's okay. Time lapse, stop motion. That's the big transition. Okay, there's this phenomenon called simultaneous invention, where a bunch of people all come up with something that's very similar at the same time. And suddenly we have all of these options for repeat photography and monitoring. So there's a great a website and program called Chronolog, where there's little stations and people can put their phone on it and take a photo and then email it in. And then it can start to show this change over time, where if it's a spot where you have the general public walking by, you can end up crowdsourcing so many images to show change over time. There's one called Coast Snap. This is down in Australia to be monitoring changes in the beach. Same kind of deal. There's one called Castor Tracker that Sherry Westbrook and Glynis Hood are doing. And then this is the project that's paying for my PhD. This one's called Flux. And so it's a product coming out of the Riverscapes consortium. They're the folks who make Brat and all of that. And it's kind of the same similar sort of a deal. It's, however, an app. Photos in Flux is Flux. Are these gonna play? Hey, there we go. All right, so I drive over this bridge over the Umatilla River when I go back and forth from Walla Walla to Logan. And it's kind of interesting when you really see, like, wow, that changes a lot over the course of a year. So in this one, any person can create a series, add to it, and it can be public. So other people who have the app can find that same photo point, navigate their way to it, they can pop it up, and then I'm not going to get into this. You can come see me at the booth. But basically, the snazzy thing was that it has an opacity slider. So you can recall the previous photo and then slide it back and forth to perfectly line up the photo that you're adding. Because I'm sure we've all had situations where we go back to a field site a year later and we're like, is this even the same place? So if you can have like a ridge top or a big tree or something, you can kind of try to line it up. Now, of course, change over time takes time, and this thing literally just got put on the App Store like 2 weeks ago. So I haven't had time yet. But, you know, there's other ways that we can have fun with time-lapse. So this is how I was entertaining myself a little bit ago. So I hate the whole thing. Let me tell you, I was really glad I didn't get a double. All right. So this is where now my talk is going to turn to full-on bribery. I have a Riverscapes Consortium sponsor table, and we are going to completely rip off, yet again, Emily Fairfax's fantastic stop motion, and we are going to, together, as the participants of BeaverCon, turn this little dinky channel into a massive beaver wetland. So we've got little bowls of sticks and rocks and pebbles and grasses and leaves and little things. And you will come to my booth, you will download the app, you will add a piece to the board, and you will take a photo. And together, as an entire conference, we will build out a beautiful, lush beaver wetland. And because I know we all also have app fatigue, you can get entered into winning a $100 REI gift card. So that's my bribe. We will also have stickers if you come and participate. We'll get this launched and ready to go tomorrow morning. And then also, you all received an email this morning with a survey. So though I am becoming a Riverscape scientist, I am fully immersed in the world of sociology. So this is my first sociology official IRB-approved survey. And again, another bribe for another $100 gift card. So take the survey. I want to hear what people are thinking about the state of beaver-based restoration today. And because this whole project is funded by NASA, I, of course, had to make space beavers. So now we have Beaver Believer, the Beaver Riot Rockstar, the Space Beaver, and the Dr. Beaver. So all the beavers are available in stickers as well. And I just want to make a little plug. Emily Iskin is part of the same grant from NASA. She's at Boise State University. And so I'm doing the photography on the ground, right, because I'm the photographer. She's the GIS whiz brains, smarty pants person who's going to tell you all about Mermaid, which is a way to use remote sensing to gauge mesic vegetation. So your presentation is when on Wednesday? Wednesday afternoon. So one of the things that we're really hoping is that we can have the remote sensing and the aerial imagery that's showing that change in mesic vegetation over time as a proxy for water, and then have the ground truthing of the photos on the ground, so that again, we don't have to try to convince people, no, truly, this remote sensing stuff, it's real. We can just communicate and explain it, and people can come to this fabulous conclusion on their own. And now, real quick, and I have no idea where I'm at on time. I meant to check my thing. Oh, cool, we have 3 minutes. Okay, so the first picture we had everyone draw was I said, draw a healthy stream. Let's see your first healthy stream. Oh, did you draw on top? Oh, I messed up. Oh, Oh, well, okay. Well, if you saw, as the work in progress, the healthy stream was just a stream. And then I gave each person a card that referenced a socio-ecological riverscape system. What happens and even the way we think about what that is. So do you each want to share real quick what you had and what you drew?
Okay. Oh yeah, she can go. It's okay. Okay. So my healthy stream. Hold on. Thank you. My healthy stream had a lot of meandering, a lot of different channels, some healthy vegetation, and then Sarah wanted me to add some socio-economic problem with, or like, uh, yeah, some involving ranchers. So I drew this. This is based on a true story. A friendly jab at my advisor about this farmer that had blueberries growing on her farm and accused beavers of eating 4,000 of them, or $4,000 worth of them, somehow. And then this farm has fencing to keep wildlife out, and they have dead vegetation along the edge. And then down here, I didn't finish, but little beaver deceiver, but still accepting the fact that the beavers are working there and their water source. So that's that.
Actually, an amazing artist. Go to Watercycle Colors and follow their art.
Thank you. I tried to put in kind of different stuff based on the setting of the stream, and so it's kind of like more confined over here, and maybe more like wood dominated, and then beavers where it's wider, and tried to show how there's like pools in places and like different depths in water and sizes of channels and different vegetation communities. And then I tried to show process, even though it's hard in a static image, by trying to show erosion deposition and then like a fire cycle and how flow changes over time. And then the thing that I was supposed to, and then there's also a few little animals that I tried to put in and fish everywhere. And then the thing I was supposed to add or do on a separate sheet was a riverscape social-ecological system amidst a suburb. And so then I started drawing in houses and kind of idealistic, bikeable, composting, sustainable community that is outside of the floodplain, but has access to hanging out and enjoying the floodplain. There's a little guy smiling.
Okay.
I drew a lot of things, I guess. I don't know, some different narrow and some wider areas. I drew this happy waiter wearer singing the same tune as this bird, but this frog is singing a different song, even though his eggs are doing really well. I'm sorry, I did not understand what to do with the card. An urban environment. The closest thing I have is this beautiful brick house, which has the same flowers that you'll see in the meadow next to when your beaver pond fills in.
Very thought out. For mine, I had, oh yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Starts off high gradient headwaters, then goes down to a nice valley. I showed some oxbowing there that's now detached from the main channel. A nice big open valley meadow, maybe carved out by a glacier at one point. This is a second or primary deciduous forest, as you can see. This is older forest over on the right side. Let's see, have a bunch of willow, riparian shading, large down wood, a snag, some macros, multi-species representation, a snag, and then I had the biologic hydrologic representation and geologic. Oh, and then we have geologic constriction at the base here. It's gonna go high velocity for some stream evolution. And my card, which I think, we missed the memo, was a socio-ecological system on public land. So I added a birder. But had I properly understood the assignment, one that came to mind is a project I did years ago that implemented a bunch of BDAs in an area of headwaters where there were active beaver, and then the beaver moved in, which then flooded out a bunch of OHV trails. Time.